Hi guys, welcome to the Young Greens of Ohio monthly stream. Sorry. Today we are gonna be talking about weed politics. I'm your host, Mackenzie Lacey. I am co-chair of the Young Greens of Ohio. Also, if you want to join, please message us on our Facebook page or on our Twitter, so we can send you the Telegram link and get you more involved. Austin will be answering questions. I will be asking. We both will be discussing where the Greens stand on weed, and the current legal status of weed, and how we can just live better. All right, Austin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. My name is Austin Bayshore. I'm a Central Committee member of the Ohio Green Party, representing Kent in Northeastern Ohio. I am also the volunteer coordinator of the Ohio Green Party. I wear many hats, as well as being the youth representative for the International Committee. I'm also a member of the Green Party of Korea. So I'm super excited to be here today. Thank you, Mackenzie, for inviting me to talk about weed politics with everybody.
All right, let's get started. So the first question we're going to be discussing is, what is the current legal status of weed in the US? Austin?
It depends on which jurisdiction you live in the United States. Many states have the legalization of recreational marijuana. However, in Ohio, recreational marijuana is not legal. There are a few states and a few cities, or there's a few cities in the city of Ohio that have decriminalized it, such as my representative area of Kent. In the city of Kent, it is not legal to have marijuana. However, if you are caught with it or if you're caught high, the police and the court system in the city just will not bring you up on charges. They'll take you to the police station if you're publicly intoxicated and make sure you're safe and okay, and then send you on your merry way once you sober up. But currently in the state of Ohio, marijuana is not legal.
Yep. I think in Cincinnati, you can be caught with up to 100 milligrams of it, or grams of it, but you can still get in trouble with it, at least in Cincinnati. I'm pretty sure. Our next question is, where do the Greens stand on weed legalization? Austin?
Well, the good thing is that we're not called the Green Party for nothing. We stand in creating a legal system in the United States that allows for the personal, what do I want to call it, consumption of legalized marijuana. And we want to see that all offenders in prison for marijuana possession be freed, and all nonviolent offenders having their criminal record cleared. We believe that only legalizing marijuana, while the people, mainly Black and brown people in prison for marijuana offenses, if we legalize it and they're still in prison, that's just another form of white supremacy. So we want to create a legalized system, or decriminalized system, owned by the workers and not the private corporations.
Yep. And that'll be good also for Medicare, because it helps a lot with some medical problems and everything.
Yes, the most dangerous thing about marijuana is the fact that it is illegal.
Mm-hmm. Which goes to our next question. What are the effects of weed being illegal in America?
The war on drugs is a failed operation. Many times the United States government would use the auspice of drugs to crack down on political opposition, left-wing opposition to the United States, opposition political parties and political activists. The war on drugs also targeted minority communities, Black and brown peoples. The white and Black people use marijuana at the same rates. However, most of the people in prison for marijuana offenses are our minority communities, our African American communities. So the war on drugs has been a racist enterprise from the start and completely failed. It has not the war on drugs has not eliminated drug use in the United States. It has actually, in fact, increased drug use. A lot of people turn to drugs, turn to these illegal substances because they want an escape from their everyday life. They are stressed out, they are tired, they are looking for a way out. So that's why people get into using hard drugs. I personally do not believe marijuana is a hard drug. Again, the most dangerous thing about it is that it is illegal. The most dangerous thing you're going to do is eat the entire contents of your refrigerator. So it has not been a positive effect on the United States.
Also, because it's illegal, we don't have enough scientific knowledge on it to know how helpful it can be. We only have trial and error. So.
Marijuana used to be legal in the United States up until about 100 years ago, when there was a coordinated campaign by the tobacco industry to label marijuana as a dangerous product, to where mainly their argument was white women who used marijuana, it made them want to date Black men. So it has been a racist enterprise from the tobacco industry for about 100, 150 years.
Yep, which tobacco is way worse for you, as far as we know with the studies that we've been able to do. All right, next question. Some other countries have legalized weed and other drug use, and it's been very successful. Why can't we in the US?
Again, we have a huge lobbying industry in the United States that most countries do not have. Many countries have legalized marijuana. Many large cities have legalized marijuana. The few examples I can think of is obviously Amsterdam in the Netherlands having legalized weed, as well as the DPRK. North Korea has legalized marijuana, and it's actually promoted in North Korea as a healthy alternative to smoking cigarettes. Marijuana and other types of plants grow naturally in the Korean peninsula. However, in the southern half of the peninsula in South Korea, the Republic of Korea, it is extremely illegal due to the US influence and hardcore anti-drug policies of the past military dictatorships. So many countries have a lot more tourist income from people who are looking to experiment in this type of unsobriety. So places like Canada get a lot of American tourists going and smoking marijuana, as well as tourists from around the world. As long as they have a safe place to do it, it's no more harmful than drinking alcohol or smoking cigarettes. Obviously, you should not drive a car after smoking a bowl. But again, even with legalized alcohol and tobacco products, we cannot even stop that from happening.
Exactly. And it seems like alcohol is way more dangerous than weed, but I digress. All right, next question. To push for federal legalization of weed, where should we start?
We should start at the local level, honestly. Getting cities and towns across the country to stop bringing up criminal charges of people just for simple possession and just being high in public. While it may be a public nuisance to most people, it may be a public disturbance to most people in marijuana aren't going out and harming others, unlike alcohol or other hard drugs. The most dangerous thing about it is that it is illegal. So we should focus locally and then work our way up to ballot initiatives. We did have a ballot initiative in Ohio to legalize marijuana. However, this ballot initiative failed and the Green Party opposed it. You may be thinking, why would the Green Party oppose an initiative to legalize marijuana? Well, in order to appease both big business and the marijuana activists, the ballot initiative only allowed 5 businesses and 5 private enterprise, I keep using the word enterprises, 5 entities to legally grow marijuana. So it would create a 420 monopoly in the state of Ohio. And that is why the Green Party opposed the legalization of marijuana the first time around in the state of Ohio, because only a handful of people and businesses could actually legally produce it for everybody else. So we want to see everybody being able to grow this naturally occurring plant in their backyard.
Yep, I agree. Next question. Should drug testing, especially for weed, be part of getting a job?
I think even nowadays, the drug testing for weed is completely irresponsible, because there are a lot of prescription medicines that can trick a drug screening. Eating too many poppy seeds, having a poppy seed bun for breakfast or lunch, having a poppy seed bun hamburger for lunch, and then taking a drug test can trigger the drug test as if you are a drug addict. And the people who are drug addicts need help. They need assistance. They do not need to be denied of every basic human right just because they fell into a hole. They need to be able to take care of themselves and get back on their feet. So I think drug testing in general should not be a common practice, just because how many prescription medicines, eating certain foods can trick a drug test to come up as you are a drug user. If they are going to require a drug test for certain jobs, they need to be able to give the people who fail the drug test an avenue to get better, instead of just throwing them to the street, tossing them to the curb, and making sure they just don't keep falling into this repetitive cycle of drug abuse.
Yeah, and just because weed can stay in your system, I think up to 3 days if you use it like sparingly.
If you walk or by somebody smoking weed, or if you're in a car with somebody who has smoked weed, you can still get secondhand. You yourself cannot be a user of marijuana or THC, but it can still trick the drug test.
Yeah, so just because you used it at home doesn't mean you're going to do it at work. People drink at home. They don't, most of the time, don't drink at work. So it's like, if you can go home and drink and be fine to work, why is going home and smoking weed different? Why does that automatically make you unfit to have a job? When you could be an alcoholic and be fine for the job.
A lot of people, when we talk about the legalization of marijuana, a lot of people are worried about the children, rightfully so, rightfully worried about children. However, the legalization of marijuana and a drug issue with children
are two separate.
Yes, the government cannot solve that. It's not a nanny state. It is strictly a parenting issue. So when people talk about the issues around children smoking marijuana and having access to marijuana, yes, obviously you cannot purchase it if you will not be of age. We'll have the same laws for cigarettes as we do alcohol, as we do legalized marijuana. However, after that, that is completely a parenting issue. That is not an issue for the government. That is something you need to sit down and talk to your children about, because children are already experimenting with drugs. Young people are already smoking marijuana. And again, it's not a government issue. That's a parenting, a society, an individual issue. But if they do end up addicted to some type of medication, we'll always be there to help, because the Green Party is fighting for universal health care, which includes addiction treatment, mental health services, and just taking care of people to create a society and a better place to live for us all.
Yes. Awesome. All right, next question is only allowing the medical use of weed enough? So some states just legalize it for medical use only. Is that enough?
It's a step in the right direction. THC and other components of marijuana have been extremely helpful for people with seizures, people who experience seizures, and it's a step in the right direction. The complete blanket ban on THC, marijuana, and other medicinal uses of the plant have done a lot of harm and a lot of detriment to the people who require that type of medication. So the liberalization of the medical laws surrounding marijuana and hemp and other plants of that nature is, again, a step in the right direction. However, we need to legalize it for all people to use. Personally, I never experimented with marijuana. It's not my thing. But just because I don't use it or appreciate it does not mean other people shouldn't be allowed to do it either. The Greens are quite consistent in that ideology when it comes to same-sex marriage. Some people are never going to get gay married. That doesn't mean other people shouldn't. Women's reproductive health. I'm never going to have an abortion, but we shouldn't limit other people for not having it. Guns. I'm never going to own a gun, but we shouldn't limit other people's right to bear arms. And we also carry that over to marijuana. Even if you don't use it, it doesn't mean we should cancel it out for other people. Dr. Jill Stein, the 2012 and 2016 presidential candidate, when she came to Ohio, quite openly admitted to me that she's not very fun at parties. But that doesn't mean she doesn't want weed decriminalized for everybody. And I'm just like, I was like, dang, she's just like me.
Yeah. But yeah, no, definitely. That's one reason why I like the Greens, because they are very my body, my choice. So it's awesome. All right. Final question, going back to kind of what we said before about people currently in jail for nonviolent drug possessions. How can we push for the freedom of them if weed is legalized?
We need to include it in our laws. We need to include it in the ballot referendums to legalize marijuana. It's quite simple. You can just, judges, court systems can expunge the records. They've done it for corrupt politicians, bribed $60 million. They've done it for former murderers and rapists. So why can't we do it for somebody in prison for simple possession charges? They're not hurting anyone. The only person that they hurt was themselves. Ohio, luckily, does not have a 3-strike law, but in some states they have 3-strike laws, which basically says if you're caught 3 times with criminal charges, the 3rd strike is life in prison. Simple act of having a natural plant that God created can get you life in prison after 3 possession charges. So that we see that as a gross violation of human rights. We want to go around the world telling China, telling North Korea, Vietnam, and other countries how they should be running their countries. Meanwhile, in many states in the United States, people are getting life in prison for simply having a natural plant. So it's about time that we decriminalize marijuana, have it and release those who are in prison for nonviolent possession charges.
All right, that was our final question. Thank you for coming to our live stream on weed politics. I'm Mackenzie and this is Austin. See you next month. Bye.
Thank y'all for joining. Bye-bye.